Hello again everyone, and how's it all going? Welcome back to Louis' Garage. So again today we are working on the Lotus Exige. Yes, you might see a bit of a pattern here. It's been on the jack stands for a little while. There's a few things to do on the car, so I thought I would just leave it on the jack stands and just kind of do everything at the same time. And it's probably a good thing because we're in the middle of another lockdown here in New Zealand. It's been about 2 months since we started the lockdown. It's probably going to go on for a little bit longer because the Delta variant is very contagious here. We only have a few cases, but the government wants to try and, make sure that we don't have massive outbreaks. So there are some restrictions. We are able to go and get some food and do some, click and collect orders. So that's good. But in terms of work and all that sort of stuff, I'm working from home at the moment. So it is a really good time actually to be working on the Lotus Exige S. So what are we going to be doing today, you might be wondering? Well, this is one of those little jobs that I kind of put off for a little while, but I think now is the time to do it. The side pods on the car, as you can see, are pretty standard. They're just the normal ones that you get from Lotus, and you can see this big opening here, this big vent, that brings air into the engine and helps to cool down the engine bay, as well as the actual air intake. That's where the air intake takes the air from. And also in the future, I'm planning to do the supplementary intercooler upgrade. So the intercooler upgrade brings air from the side pods instead of just from the tiny little hood scoop, and brings it into the intercooler shroud. You need to get a new intercooler shroud, or you can modify your existing one, but my existing one is a little bit broken already, probably from the previous accident. So I'm going to get a new shroud, hopefully a new intercooler, and have the intercooler piping go from the vents here all the way to the back of the engine. So that means that I probably do need some wider scoops here. The other problem that I have as well is that these scoops are actually quite fragile. I took them off just to have a look at them the other time, and if you have a look on this side, I've actually already kind of broken this a little bit. You can see not this bit. Oh yeah, this bit's a bit broken as well. I think they're made of like very thin fiberglass, and so they do tend to have some issues like that. So yeah, I just don't really like them very much anyway. They seem very brittle, and this mesh, yeah, it's not the highest quality. So I'm going to be replacing them with the GRP or the Greg's Racing Parts side scoops, and that's what's sitting in this box here. Alright, so this is a standard one, and this is the one from GRP. Sorry if you can't see that very well, but there you go. It looks really, really good. The quality is fantastic. It's very, very light. I weighed this before. A single scoop, even though it's a little bit bigger than factory, 180 grams with the mesh and everything. Can you just think about that for a second? 180 grams for something that's actually functional and part of the body work. That's insane. So I think it's pretty straightforward. I think all we need to do is remove these 3 bolts and mount the scoop on the side here. They have supplied some new fasteners as well, because obviously this is a little bit wider, so you need new fasteners to bring it out a little bit more. But yeah, we'll just give it a try and see how it goes. Alright everyone, so step number 1 is to get your Allen key or your hex bit. It's a 3mm hex bit, which is quite small, and we are just going to be undoing these bolts. Pretty simple. They shouldn't be on too tight, so it should be pretty straightforward to loosen them up, and then we can take the whole side pod out just by loosening these 3 bolts. Alright, and there you have it. That's one side pod out. You can see all the mounting hardware and all the brackets just in there. Apparently we may have to modify them a little bit, bend them out a little bit or something like that, but we'll just test fit it first and see how it goes. Okay, and so now that we've got the original scoop off, we can compare a little bit between the old one and the new one. As you can see, the old one is some sort of fiberglass or glass reinforced fiber, whatever they call it. It's a little bit brittle. It's not the best material. As you can see down here, it's already started to crack and flake, probably from stone chips and stuff like that. It's quite heavy. I haven't got my scale here, but I'd say it's probably like 1.5 to 2 times the weight of the new GRP one. So it's definitely time for a bit of a change. Now the GRP kit, you can order the hardware to go with it as well, which I think you should, because obviously it just makes sense to get the hardware, especially when you have the extra wide scoops, because you're going to need this little spacer to try and space out the scoop without damaging it. So I think the idea behind this is that we actually install this onto the scoop before we put the scoop on the car, and this little plastic washer here just helps to retain everything in place while we fiddle around with it and try and line it up. So I'm going to do that for all 3 mounting points here, and then we should be ready to give it a try and put it on the car. Right, so that's what it looks like when I've got everything roughly installed. These are the spacers and the hardware for the extra wide side scoops. So we'll just give it a test and see how it goes. So there is a slight problem, and it could just be a Lotus issue. I don't think it's really a GRP issue. There is a little bit of a gap, especially on the left-hand side for me, where the side pod is supposed to meet the body. And obviously there are some differences between every single clam. And also I think my mounting points for the side pods were a little bit hacked up from the previous owner. So yeah, there is a little bit of a gap. It's a little bit better on the other side. You can't really notice it unless you're really looking for it. So it's not too bad, and in terms of function, it's probably going to be just fine. So let's have a look at the other side as well. Yeah, you can see this side barely has any gap at all. You can just see a little bit there. So if I have some extra time, or maybe when I install the supplementary cooling kit, I'm going to look at trying to make that a little bit better on the other side, but for now I think that's okay. I'm not going to try and do too much just for that little cosmetic issue. Cool, look at that. That looks awesome. That's what it looks like when it's installed. Now please do not use too much force when you're tightening up the bolts there. It's really a light item, you know, it's pretty fragile, so don't try and torque it down too much. Just, you know, hand tight is fine. In fact, I left a little bit of a gap in here for this bolt, just because it looks like it's actually you know, it's actually tensioning up that bracket there, and I didn't want to put too much tension on that, so I decided just to go easy on that particular one. But yeah, that's what it looks like. It really matches the sills now as well. Now I do need to give this car a bit of a wash, you know, I do apologize. All of this crap is actually still from the drive back home. I never really bothered giving it a wash. I'll be doing that soon once the car gets lowered down and I can drive it again. But yeah, that looks awesome, doesn't it? I think it looks way better than the original side scoops. It's functional, it's a little bit wider than the original, and hopefully it'll go really well with the intercooler supplementary cooling kit. So yeah, thanks very much for joining me on another episode.